sure that we don't get to that point where we're murdering for views. I want to make sure. I'm going to guarantee you, listeners, right now, we are not going to get to that point.
I want to tell you right now on this, I promise I will never murder for views on this channel.
We sell donuts. And donuts. We sell donuts.
Hey everybody, welcome to Blood and Donuts. I am Tony.
And I'm Chris. What's up, everybody?
Totally Killer, a 2023 American slasher comedy film directed by Nanachka Khan. The story follows Jamie, who, after her mother is murdered by the same Sweet 16 killer who went on a murder spree 35 years earlier, travels back in time to 1987, where she pairs up with her mother to catch the killer during his original spree and return to her timeline before she is trapped in the past forever. Chris, before we get into this, last week you came to the show with strep throat, and yeah, isn't that cool? That's a cool, yeah. Chris, first off, I'm glad you're here, man. You got strep throat. Your whole family's sick.
We're making it,
man. He really loves y'all. He showed up for Hold My Beer. I raise you a COVID-19. That's what I have. I got COVID. And I'm here. So that makes me better than you, I feel like, in a way.
Why do you got to one-up me, man?
That's all I'm saying.
Like the flu or something.
I've been sick as a dog, and I'm here anyway with COVID.
We appreciate you putting in the work, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I do this for y'all.
Totally Killer premiered at Fantastic Fest on September 28th, 2023. It was released onto Amazon Prime Video on October 6th, 2023. Did not go into movie theaters, went straight to Prime. I think that was a good choice for this movie, Chris.
Oh, this is a direct to streaming service kind of movie.
Yeah. You see, like, it's a Blumhouse production. They put Exorcist Believer in theaters. They put Night Swim in Night Swim in theaters, which by the way is already streaming right now. But I think they made a very good choice with this one, which I think this is the best of the three.
Of those three?
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Oh man.
You know my feelings on Night Swim, and it's probably worldwide known our feelings on Exorcist Believer.
I've been watching Back to the Future my entire life. 1, 2, and 3. Just watched it with my boys, my wife. I revisited, I think, last month. Marty McFly, nice. Doc Brown. I love it. I love every bit of it. This mixes two of my favorite loves. We got Back to the Future, and then we have like a slasher horror, and they kind of meld the two, and they sprinkle with some comedy and humor in there. I mean, that's my jive. I jive with that. I like that.
I think it's a pretty good balance. Don't go into this thing just wanting to be creeped out or wanting just to be horrified, like When Evil Lurks or something, but go into it with an open mind and just have fun. And I thought the jokes were funny. I thought they landed. Like I say, I watched most of these movies with my wife, and she was laughing and she enjoyed it, but I was kind of rolling at some of the jokes, and she was just kind of like, I don't get it. It had that dry, quick humor that I love. So it really blended the two well, I think.
I think so too. And you're seeing more of these mashups. You're seeing these comedies and these slashers that come together, kind of like Happy Death Day. Kiernan Shipka is the girl that plays Jamie, our main character in this. And this is my first introduction to her. Y'all might know her from other things. I've heard that she was in Riverdale and other. I don't watch. I don't know. But so apparently she's a very talented actress that has. But this is her debut for me, and I thought she was great. I was like, who is this girl? She's amazing. Did you feel the same way?
Oh yeah. I mean, and she had to play a wide range of emotions, from sad, heartbroken to frantic to, just happy, all of the emotions. She really carried this movie, a very strong lead. I thought all the other actors and actresses were fine and funny enough, but they did a great casting choice with her. I think she knocked it out of the park.
Yeah. Not only that, they had a lot, like you said, there's a huge cast. I feel like you were introduced to a lot of characters here, and I'll tell you about some of my gripes and some of my positives when it comes to that. But there was a lot of great known comedic actors in this. You had Julie Bowen as Jamie's mom, or Pam. Randall Park was the sheriff from the 80s. You have Lachlan Monroe as Jamie's father. You have Olivia Holt plays teenage Pam. She does a great job, I feel like. Troy Leanne Johnson plays the best friend from the 1980s, I guess we can say, without spoiling it too much right here. There's a great cast, lots of characters in this at times. For a slow man like myself, like I said, it was a little hard to keep up with some of these characters at times.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would say 60% of the cast was just kind of there, kind of doing their thing, and then you had the other 40%, including our lead, just kind of carrying the rest of it. And I think they did a good job. A lot of references in this thing too. I mean, it's almost like every character and every scene was a throwback to something. Like Jamie's character is after final girl boss Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
A lot of throwbacks to the Breakfast Club, stuff like that.
Yeah, I saw that. The fringe white jacket that was worn by Jamie is very similar to the one that was worn by Sloane in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 1986, directed by John Hughes. There's a lot of cool throwback, and like you said, references. I don't think I even caught them all. I feel like I'm kind of well versed in those things, but I was born in 1985, so I don't know all of the John Hughes films. I've seen Pretty in Pink. I've seen Breakfast Club. I don't know every second of those films, but some of these references were so well done. A movie like this nowadays can go a little too far in the political correctness aspect of this, like kind of go like a little too woke, but I feel like this poked fun at both sides. And it did it very well. You know what I mean? So I feel like it poked fun at the future, and it poked fun at the past as well. So I mean, as an example, at one point, Jamie's like, unwanted touch.
Nice try.
Unwanted touch. Oh my God, unwanted touch.
You know what I mean? Like, so like there's stuff like that where it's just like, oh, that is kind of silly. That's so, you know what I mean? Like, so there's things like that. And I love how this film did that.
Yeah, I like the part where she's like, here, I got the killer's blood on a napkin, and then she gives it to the cop. She's like, search it in the DNA database, and he's like, what? What's a DNA database? And he like throws the blood napkin on the ground and keeps talking to everybody. Like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, he
really
acted like he was typing on keys, and he goes, look, I'm gonna solve crimes. Look at me, I'm solving crimes. Get out of here. All right, seriously, guys. Yeah, it was just stuff like that. It was just so funny.
The 80s jokes are really funny. It's a comedy, I think, first. And then maybe a horror second.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Fun fact, the first year that DNA was actually used to solve a crime was 1987. Did you have that?
Nice. I saw that, but I didn't. Okay. I was going to save some facts for you.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyway, this film was filmed in Vancouver, British Columbia. Did you see that when the trailer was released that it drew comparisons to a certain film that had already been released? Did you hear about that one?
Mm-mm.
So, there was a near identical plot to the film of The Final Girls from 2015. I haven't seen this film. The film was about, cool. I didn't either, but the film is about a teenage daughter who goes back in time having to save their mother. The director of that film, Todd Strauss Schulson, I think I said that right, commented on social media. He said, "Haven't I made this before?"
Dang.
Yeah, I know. The studio, the cast, the crew for Totally Killer, they still have not commented on some of the similarities with that film. I have not seen that. I would like to go and revisit that and see if it's anything similar to this, because I really thought that this was a very refreshing and new idea for a film. I don't know. Not that Not that time travel hasn't been done 100 times. And even this film like pokes fun at that. Like at one point they go, yeah, time travel movies don't make sense. They say that in this movie, which is a time travel movie. So I like,
yeah,
it's hilarious.
I got a couple little other facts. It's all pretty much just callbacks to the Breakfast Club director, John Hughes.
Yeah.
His family is the Hughes family.
I love John
Another
Hughes.
nod is it's a Vernon High School, and that's after the teacher from Breakfast Club, Richard Vernon, I guess. So that's kind of all I have. I mean, there's some other spoiler facts, but I have a couple for when we get into that part of the show.
Yeah, there's a ton of facts. Kind of rewatch this film and go back and kind of see like the similarities and little Easter eggs that they put in here, because there's a ton of them, and I think they did a really good job on that. I picked this film. Do you mind if I go ahead and get into my rating?
Go for it. Dude.
Okay, here's some of my pros, and I might have touched on these a little bit in the already. This movie is really fun. I enjoyed watching it from start to finish. I thought this movie was very entertaining. Most of these laughs landed for me. I love slashers. I love Back to the Future. I really enjoyed the humor. It danced between the craziness, the political incorrectness of the 80s, and the craziness and over political correctness of today. Think overtly racist, smoking cigarettes while driving, things that would get you canceled today of the 80s. Getting to go back and we get to laugh at those things, which I think when we do that, it brings us closer together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because those things were ridiculous, but hey, I grew up in that era as well. She gets out, she looks at the high school, and there is a Native American Indian there, and it just says above it, what does it say, Red Devils or something like that?
Yeah, the Red Devils.
Oh my gosh. And she's just like, oh, I was expecting that. She's like
starting with the racism.
Yeah. Everyone was so blunt and mean from the 1980s. The gym teacher was hilarious in comparison to Jamie, again, the unwanted touch. She's in the front office at one point at the high school, and she says, "Can I get a different schedule? I'm not really a gym kind of girl." And they only had one schedule. She just handed her the schedule. That's the schedule. What do you have the schedule? Where she came from, she's in current times, you would just go change your schedule. I'm not comfortable. I mean, I just thought that was hilarious.
That office worker was like a little unsung hero for me, because she's like, "Hey, I really need to pull this girl out of class and blah, blah, blah. What class is she in?" And she's explaining her emergency, and the lady just hands her a note of where she's at. She doesn't care.
And she goes, "You just gave this to me?" She goes, "Yeah, we're not Fort Knox." And so what's cool about that is because they didn't have Columbine yet. They didn't have the many school shootings that we have every day. So it's ridiculous to even think about a school secretary just giving a kid's location in a school just outright, which that's how it was in the 1980s. So I loved watching that dynamic play out. So that was really cool. I thought the cast of this movie was great. The movie really hinged on Shipka, and I already said that. She was up for the task. She knocked it out of the park. She was funny. She was entertaining. The killer was cool looking enough. I like the killer's mask. I liked his skill set. He seemed very unstoppable at times. His kills were pretty brutal. He stabbed these 16-year-old girls on their 16th birthday 16 times. So they were kind of brutal at times, but so it warranted the R rating. This film does have an R rating. So I enjoyed the very, very end of this film. The changes to the timeline, I'm not going to spoil that too much. That's every time travel film. Okay. So I would have liked to see more of that played out, but still I enjoyed the way that it was presented, kind of. And then I get into my cons. This movie did not take itself too seriously, so any of these cons that I say, it's going to sound like I'm splitting hairs, and I sound like just a complete jerk. The cast was great, but with an hour and 45 minutes and you have so many cast members, in 2 different timelines. This movie has no time for character development, so you feel zero sympathy for any of these deaths, except maybe the first one, which I'm not going to talk about, and you only feel that for just a minute. And maybe that's a good thing because you want the laughs to keep rolling. This is a comedy, right? And so to be honest, I was having trouble keeping up with who was who some of the time, especially in the friend department in the 80s timeline, if that makes sense. Again, this movie was going for laughs, the irony, not character development, so I get it. That being said, this film's not scary at all. The slasher kills are great, but there is no point in this film where you're going to be scared, for me anyway. In fact, the slasher himself is on screen for maybe 8 to 10 minutes of this film. Maybe 15.
Short.
I don't know. If anything, they could have upped the horror and suspense a little bit for me. You know, if you're going to do a mashup, but it's very hard. It's very hard. This is why this is not a typical thing of these mashups. So I didn't enjoy the part of the reveal of this killer or killers.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy the carnival ride sequence at the end. It was mid for me. The killer stood up at one point. He starts walking against gravity. Didn't make sense. I didn't understand any of that. And I don't know. It comes off a bit corny there at the end. Enjoyed it. I'm going to give it a big 7 out of 13 for me. I thought it was fun. I thought it was enjoyable, quotable, smart, refreshing.
And jump into my pros, they kind of parallel with yours. So did the cons, actually.
Yeah.
Really funny. Like I said, all the jokes really landed for me as well. Great acting, especially the leads. We talked about it, and the story's fun. You know, and I like the kind of the Max Headroom mask bad guy or whatever.
Yeah.
The cons, like you said, man, again, not really scary or suspenseful. It did have a good balance between the slashing and the comedy, but I wanted to be a little more scared during the slasher parts. I was just kind of, like you said, no characters really fleshed out, so I wasn't really rooting for any of them to live. It was kind of, okay, whatever. And the bad guy was incredibly strong for who it turned out to be. I mean, he took a lot of shots and kept on coming, and I was like, really, that guy?
Yeah.
That the skinny?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Or that person? Sorry.
Or persons.
Persons, maybe. And I'm actually gonna go one better on this, Tony. I thought that lead actor was just really strong for me, and I did enjoy the comedy parts. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 13 donuts.
That's fair.
Again, you know, I'll recommend it. It's mid tier. You know, it's not just overly creepy at all. It's not scary at all. Even the jump scares, there's not really any jump scares. I would have appreciated a couple of good jump scares thrown in there, but if they were, they missed. I didn't get jump scared at all. So, but 8 out of 13 for me.
Absolutely. If you were born in the 80s, or you have any sense of that era, and like you want to compare it to today, and you like horror films, I think you're going to enjoy this film. I mean, like, you don't everything doesn't have to be gory, crazy, nuts mess to be a good film. This is a very enjoyable film, and I think you should go watch it before we spoil it right here. Go watch it on Amazon Prime. Totally killer. What do you say we spoil this thing?
Let's do it, man.
Let's do it. In the small town of Vernon on October 27th, 29th, and 31st, 1987, 3 teenage girls named Tiffany Clark, Marissa Song, Heather Hernandez were killed by the Sweet 16 killer, each having been stabbed 16 times on the nights of their 16th birthdays. In the present day, teenager Jamie Hughes goes to a concert with her friend Amelia on Halloween night while her mother Pam stays at home. Pam used to be friends with these 3 victims of the Sweet 16 killer, and while handing out candy, she's attacked by the killer, who stabs her to death.
Holy smokes, man.
That condenses a lot
quick.
of...
Is that really his name, the Sweet 16 killer? I mean, come on. I guess he did slash him or stab him 16 times, whatever.
On their 16th birthday.
Oh, they're all birthday at the same time? Dang, that's crazy.
Around the same time. Apparently is the 27th, 29th, and 31st. And to be honest with you, I did not. I heard it. I did not gather all of that.
Nope. Not a chance.
So yeah, it doesn't matter. I don't think it really matters.
Yeah, I do like how they really just established quick, like, this story. It was, this movie's like what you said, an hour or 45 minutes long. Yeah. Within the first 10 minutes, you have a nice, good plot, and you have a huge kind of character depth for our main character. And like I said, her acting is just off the charts. But yeah, they kind of established the story pretty quick, so that's pretty good job by them.
It was a creative way of doing it too, because it brought it into the modern era with via podcast. Right, there was a podcast who was actually like moderating this thing. He was just saying, he was kind of talking about each death and how it happened, and it was kind of like it was showing a video and like an overview of the body, and there was kind of like it was like a doll or something, some animated. It would show the real body, and then it would turn into an animated little girl. I don't know if you remember that part of it. To me, it was very cool the way they did that there in the beginning, but it went into depth of the 1980s, these three killings, and it established that Jamie's mom, Pam, was one of the friends of these three girls, and we thought the 16th killer had went away, and there was this guy doing this podcast who they were like, oh, they never caught him. Is he still out there? Who knows? Mm-hmm. And Pam, Jamie's mom, had been waiting her entire life, preparing, getting ready, doing kung fu, doing karate, getting ready, apparently, for this killer that's going to come. And to Jamie's detriment, because Jamie was very irritated with her mother. They did not have a good relationship. She wants to go to this concert. Her mom is very overly protective for good reason. And so it really hurt the relationship. And then you see her dad take her to the concert, and her mom's like, blah, 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 watch yourself and do this. And she's like, Mom, rolling her eyes. She takes her friends, she goes to the concert. And then while they're at the concert, this happens. This Sweet 16 killer comes back, and they have like a very like this he doesn't just come and stab her to death. They fight it out.
Yeah, it's funny because as soon as she sees the killer, she like gets into fighting stance mode. She's like ready.
Yeah, it's like fight, ready, fight. It's like Mortal Kombat. You know what I mean?
She's got like hidden compartments under shelves. And
she's been ready for it. It's like, this is John Wick. Well, like, what is this? She's like doing cartwheels and karate.
Pam Wick.
Oh yeah, it's pretty incredible. So it establishes the killer is pretty. He's light on his feet and ready to fight. You know what I mean? Like, I thought Pam was surely going to take this guy out, but he took her out. One little note is Jamie was sitting in the back seat of the car while her dad took her to the concert, and and the dad kind of looks back. He goes, I just want you to know, when you sit in the back seat of the car, like I'm an Uber driver, it really hurts my feelings. I just laughed so hard because I have to I have two teenagers, and I was like, one of y'all can sit up front, you know that I'm not just your Uber driver. I just think it's hilarious.
Very on point.
Yes, as Jamie grieves Pam's death, she helps Amelia put the finishing touches on a time machine that she's created for a school project. It sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud, doesn't it, Chris?
Yeah, it does.
And it's approached by a reporter who is Chris Dubasage, right? Am I saying that right? I remember saying it during the movie. Was it Chris Dubasage, who tells her that Pam received a note from the killer that she kept a secret, that you're next one day. Oh my gosh.
Pretty creepy. Little note there. And again, this movie it's flying by, man. It's like, oh, here we killed the main character's mom. Oh, hey, here's a time machine. It's probably gonna get used. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Yeah. I didn't know a lot about this film. We're kind of late. We're kind of late to this. We're 3 months late, I believe, to this film. So I didn't know anything about it. So my first thought, before I really knew what this was, is, man, they really
no funeral or anything. Like, but that's good. They didn't need a funeral for this because this is flying by, and we don't need to grieve Pam's mom because she's gonna, there's better days ahead, and we're gonna see her and all this stuff. So it does show Jamie crying in her room, and I think that's enough. And then it shows her eventually back in school. I'm assuming she didn't go the next day. I'm assuming she took some time, and but they're sitting there, and it's a very awkward, like the principal's up there and the gym coach, and they're like they're
like school cop.
Yeah, they're like just in case there's a run. But they're going through like steps, like run before and
go Devils.
Oh, it's so funny. Like we don't do it justice talking about it here because the jokes were really well done, and like again, I really laughed out loud at a lot of these, and I thought I thought they were very well done, so good. Chris Dubasage is he's the podcast guy. He's probably in his mid 50s, and he went to high school when these the Sweet 16 Killers was doing his damage, and his dad is a very famous news reporter. All he is a podcaster who basically delves into the Sweet 16 murders. Chris Dubasage. Well, Chris Dubasage is a friend of Jamie's mom, Pam, who was just murdered. And he approaches Jamie. He goes, I want you to know that the Sweet 16 murderer gave your mom this note many, many years ago. And she was like, why didn't he show me? And she's like, well, she didn't want to scare you or anything. And it said, you're next one day.
And real quick too, we didn't really touch on it yet, but this movie does a pretty good job in the beginning of like a whodunit, and that kind of goes until the big reveals.
Yeah,
like the dad is kind of looking suspicious.
He does.
He seems to be jealous of the podcaster guy, and the podcaster guy doesn't like the dad, and it's like it does a great job of just establishing you with. Well, God, was it the dad? Well, surely not. Was it the podcast guy?
Yeah.
No, it couldn't have been. I mean, you're just kind of naming off all these people, like the weird, her best friend's mom looked kind of weird, and she didn't say much, and she walked to her car awful quick.
Yeah.
It was a really good kind of whodunit setup.
You're right about that. Yeah. So it wasn't just comedic horror. There was also a whodunit aspect to this whole thing. And it goes back into the future and messes with the timeline. There's so many elements to this film, and it does it in an hour and 45 minutes. I have to commend that and tip my hat to it. At night, Jamie, she's chased by the killer. She hides in the time machine, which is like it's a photo booth, right?
It's a photo booth, but it's made into a time machine.
Okay. Yeah. So she hides into the time machine, which activates and sends her back to 1987. But this is it leaves off the fact that she's fighting with the killer, and then the killer tries to stab her. His knife goes right into the almost like the
console.
The console, the interface of this photo booth, and that's what really flips the switch and turns us into a time machine. Her friend, obviously, who was an absolute genius, and any movie where there's a time machine, you just have to believe that's there.
Yeah. I'm still on board. Everything.
It is what it is.
Everything you've said so far could have happened.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And the knife was just the last missing piece of this complicated time machine.
That's exactly what happened. I mean, she realizes that if she stops the Sweet 16 Killers original spree, she can save Pam's, her mom's, life. Jamie, masquerading as an exchange student from Canada, discovers that Pam and her friends were despised by everyone in the town because they were bullies. Jamie manages to convince Amelia's mother, Lauren, and a teenager named Doug, her school's present-day principal, to help her out.
I think the funny parts about her first meeting her mom is that she wants to call her mom.
Oh,
then she's like, Mamacita.
Mamacita. Oh, I love that. I love that
Very
she
funny.
she shows up. She's like, "Can I get my schedule?" And they give her a schedule. She's like, "I'm not really a gym girl." And she goes in there and she's like, she's got these little bitty shorts on. She's like, "Why are these so short?" And then they're playing straight up dodgeball, like
Yeah.
hardcore bloody
Bloody nose dodgeball.
nose dodgeball, and which she does get a bloody nose, and which the gym teacher hilariously says, like, next time, like, the object, like, maybe when it's coming at your face, you catch it. That way I don't have to, like, touch your freaking nasty child blood. Then she said that to her, didn't she? Like,
She did.
it's
This is
so
a
funny.
very funny
Oh,
movie.
it's so hilarious. It's just like so blunt and true, and that's how they talked to him back then. She talks to her mom, and she goes like, "Mom," and like Chris said, "Mamacita," and then she like reaches out her hand and she says, "I'm Jamie from Canada," and her mom's like, her mom, who is from the 80s, is like, "I'm not gonna shake your hand because I'm not 45 and I'm not a man," like, it's just like stuff like that. It's just so funny.
Yeah.
They did a really good
She's
job.
such a bully too, doesn't she? Like flip her off.
Oh yeah,
They're the mean girls of the 80s.
yes. And what's
And they
fun?
call them the Mollies or
Yeah,
something like
they're
that.
the Mollies. They dress like Molly Ringwald, which is each of them dress like one of Molly Ringwald's characters from the 80s. That one of the John Hughes
different
films.
movies.
Yeah, it's hilarious. It's present day principal, and it says Amelia's mother. You really don't learn a lot about Amelia, Jamie's best friend in the present. You learn more about Jamie's best friend's mother, Amelia's mother, Lauren, in the past, 1980s. That's who you're really learning a lot from. She's the smart one. Even though, I mean, I guess so she's like trying to get back with her and trying to, I guess, get a time machine going so she can go back eventually, right?
Yeah, because her mom in present day is like a smart engineer lady.
Yeah.
And her mom is like, yeah, my mom was really close on this time machine. Or her friend is saying that. And so she just needed a few other little tweaks to it and she'd make it work. So the present day best friend gets a lot of her smarts from the back in the past, kind of, I guess, nerdy girl, if you will, that nobody really talked to. And that's why Jamie kind of seeks her out. She's like, hey, she knows how to build a time machine.
Absolutely. So anyway, Jamie's trying to stop the murders because she knows that they're happening that night. The night she just arrived in 1987, they're about to happen. The first one's about to happen that night, and it's going to happen at a party. So she has to infiltrate this party. She has to get into this party. She's too much of a dork to get in at this point. And so, because the mean girls just turned her off, just like, including her mother. So she goes to the party. They kind of say no. Some big football player like carries her out, and like at some point she's like, I got to get in there, I got to do some stuff, and the principal, the present day principal from the past, he like gives her a boost. Is that where the help comes from?
The president is that Doug.
Yeah,
he's kind of also outcast, and he's not allowed in the party, and so he's trying to step him up there across the fence.
So Jamie gets into the party, hosted by Tiffany. She's unable to stop the murder from happening. Using the trauma to bond with Pam, she infiltrates their group and convinces them to leave for the weekend. Although this kind of backfires, they end up at the cabin where Marissa was killed in the original timeline. As Jamie works to protect Marissa, Heather is murdered, instead changing the timeline. This is so confusing, Chris. So much is going on here. It's hard to explain this to the audience, but yes.
Well, no, it's funny because they still end up in the cabin because she's like, let's not go to a cabin. You don't want to go there. Let's go to this condo by the beach or something.
Let's go to the city.
Girl's like, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, she's like, no, don't go to that. Let's have a girls' let's have a girls' weekend, which I guess in the 80s was not like a real thing because they go, we're not going to lesbo out or something.
Yeah, we're not gonna. She's trying to les out with
Are we
us.
trying to les out? No, we're not going to do that. We got some guys coming. It's hilarious. I mean, it's so funny, guys. So she goes, we're gonna go to a condo in the city, and she goes, yes, my parents have a condo, and she's like, that's great. And Jamie falls asleep in the car, and they wake up in this creepy ass cabin out in the middle of nowhere. She goes, this is not a condo. She goes, it's not? What? And then not only that, but there's a truck filled with dudes behind a whole party full of people, including her future dad, who she's trying to keep from her mom. It's a whole big story.
That's funny too, Tony. So in Back to the Future, I think, and I know from past experience, we've seen that movie so much.
Yeah.
Marty goes back in time to try to keep his parents together, right?
Yes.
But in this movie,
she's trying to keep her parents apart.
She's trying to keep them apart.
Yes.
She's like, don't do the deed now.
Yeah.
I'm going to be born too early or something like that or whatever. So
her dad,
it's a funny dynamic.
Her dad at the very beginning was like, I'm glad we didn't hook up in high school because we were so wild that it would have never worked.
And he said he looked like Zac Efron or something.
Yeah, something like that. And then she goes and tells her mother that, hey, you're going to end up with, I can see the future and you're going to end up with him. And she can't, Pam at that point can't keep her mind off of him. She's like, oh, I'm going to end up with him. So that affects the timeline going forward in the future. And we'll talk about that later. But it's so funny. She says, yeah, it's crazy. She's like, she tells them we're not going to go to the condo. We're going to do this. And there's so many jokes that I'm not even going to mention here. There's a joke about weed at one point. There's weed going around the party. They're all high. Jamie's like, why am I not? I don't feel anything because the weed of today is so strong that she's like, you must have the tolerance of like a horse or something like that. Like her tolerance is so high because the weed is so ridiculous today. Like the weed is so strong today where it like she's going through the little bag. She's like, what are all these sticks and you know what I mean? Like you eat one gummy. Yeah, you eat one gummy today and you're like lost. You're like, where am I? I don't even know what planet I'm on.
I did like the scene where, they just like lock Jamie out of the house again. And then she's like trying to get in, and then the killer gets in. So she's like going from window to window, trying to be let in and stuff.
Yes,
it's a pretty funny scene.
It's hilarious. Not only that, she's like, I have pizza. She's like to try to get in, and they're all high and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a very funny dynamic. The killer does get in, and he doesn't get to kill the victim that he wants to kill, but he kills another victim. But it's not. It can't be her birthday, though, right?
Yeah, and I like how it's changing stuff in the present day where they're like, no, look at this picture. I actually was there, or she actually wasn't killed first. It was this other person and stuff like that. So it's really cool how they kind of bring it together.
Yeah, there's a whole dynamic there as far as that goes, and in every timeline, future, past, time machine movie, there's like this there's a theory, and they give a theory of like a river, and you're in the anyway, it doesn't matter.
Time is a river, Tony.
Time is a river. On a Halloween night, the group reconvenes at the amusement park while Lauren works on turning a popular attraction into a makeshift time machine for Jamie to travel forward. In the present day, Chris helps Amelia fix their time machine. As they realize that the timeline's changing, the group lures the Sweet 16 killer into a haunted house where he attacks them, only to be impaled by Kara, the town sheriff in the present, with a scythe.
Nice.
Is that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I like the, they're at the fun house and at the fairgrounds, right?
Yeah.
We always love to go through that thing, the haunted attraction.
Loved it.
You ride through a little mine cart, and it's just like loud red lights and flashing stuff. This one looked like you could walk through it. That's pretty cool.
That was cool. You and I, we did that. Tennessee State Fair. We would ride through it, and we would sing weird, obnoxious country songs while we did that. And but it was amazing. So they all said we're going to trap the Sweet 16 killer, and they do a good job here, and they kill him. And end of movie, right? Roll the credits.
Hey, that's in the next part. Don't be.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jumping ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But what I touched on it last paragraph. Where they fix stuff in the past and it changes the present. That's called the Mandela effect, and that actually, if you look at some Mandela effect theories, there's actually some pretty creepy stuff out there on it. It's one of the better creepy theory type stuff that you can read online. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. They also talk about, before we get into this, they talk about at the cabin. They talk about Fat Trish. Is that her name?
Fat Trish.
Fat Trish. How did Fat Trish?
The only character you don't see.
Do they talk? I mean, how they talk about how she died? Just yet?
I don't know. I think they've already explained it.
Okay.
In the movie, but yeah.
Doug is revealed as the killer, seeking revenge on the group for the death of his girlfriend Trish. Marissa reveals that she, Tiffany, and Heather got Trish drunk one night, let her drive home, and with her dying in an accident that night. Pam, however, was not present. As Jamie wonders why Pam received the note, a second killer appears and slits Marissa's throat.
So the first killer is String Bean Doug.
Yes.
Who's just taking a beating. And I'm sitting there like, really? That guy?
Yeah.
Like he couldn't even climb a fence, but he's like taking blow after blow from like big football player dude.
At one point, he did mention he knew Kung karate, right?
He went, yes.
Yeah, he went.
You can just take a punch like nobody's.
He went. I mean, he was. I mean, he went down to the mall, and he's been learning from Karate Tom how to mess people. And he's
Nice.
he's taking vengeance for his wife, his girlfriend. You know, fat Trish.
Does that also mean, right? Like Marissa, she gets her throat cut.
Yeah.
And isn't that the school resource officer in the future?
Yeah, it is.
Does that mean she's not there anymore?
Yeah. They don't go into detail about that. Hopefully she lives through that.
Travel?
Yeah, this is weird. So now there's a second killer who's chasing after Jamie, killing Chris's father along the way. The two face off in this new time machine as it activates in the killer on this carnival ride. And the killer is revealed to be Chris, the podcaster from the present. Oh my goodness. Chris is finding out about this. He wants to keep the podcast going, all this stuff. Chris also kills his father, who's doing a newscast there on the way because everybody in the movie along the way are like, dude, you just do a stupid podcast. Your dad is he's a real radio guy. You know,
he's just a real man.
Yeah, he's a real man. He's a Chevy man. He's a GMC man. You drive a Ford. You know, I don't know. They're like, you do a podcast. You're not a real man.
Sissy stuff.
You're sissy stuff. So he kills him. That makes him feel so much better. So he loved that. He loved, again, if she goes and changes the timeline, saves these girls, he don't have a podcast anymore. So he
we got to make sure that we don't get to that point where we're murdering for views. I want to make sure, I'm going to guarantee you listeners right now, we are not going to get to that point.
I want to tell you right now on this, I promise I will never murder for views on this channel. That was my presidential, like.
That was pretty good, man.
Yeah, I even did you ever done one of these?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
will not murder for views. So Doug was the original killer, but Chris, he murdered Pam and forged the note in order to generate more content for his podcast. What an ass.
That's crazy.
The two are fighting it out. Jamie's kicking him into the spinning machine, killing him. Upon returning to the present day, she finds that Pam is still alive. Mom's still alive, Chris.
That's good.
Since Jamie's parents got together earlier, they had than they had originally. So now she has an older brother who's named Jamie, and actually she finds out that her name is now Colette. And so her friend's mother, who she befriended in the past, comes and gives her a notebook and kind of fills her in on. I would have liked to see visually all these things kind of play out like you did.
Yeah.
They kind of just did it through notebook there at the end, which is fine.
Yeah.
It is an hour.
Well, this movie puts just a nice bow on everything, which we know you love that. You don't love just mysterious endings. You like it when everything, all happy endings for Tony.
I don't like all happy endings for Tony. This is and again, I think this is a good horror ending. When your name is not the same and you have to live the rest of your life as Colette when you've been known as Jamie, that's not a perfect ending. So, which is fine. But your mom's back, so I guess But this is a good horror ending where there's some things changed. Here's a book. I've filled you in on some of it, and you have a gay brother now,
Yeah. I think it ends well enough. Again, this is more a comedy. It's like 70% comedy, 30% horror, but
absolutely.
Still pretty good fun though.
Yeah, it was a good break from what we've been some brutal stuff, man. We've been hit in the face with goats, and
rotten cleansing machines.
We've been rotten cleansing machines, and found footage. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but hey, we do got some good stuff on deck.
What do we got?
Valentine.
It's Valentine's Day, which reminds me, I need to get some reservations and a present going for my wife.
She'll be okay.
I need to
when
go
you've been
and
married as long as I have.
Yeah,
you just don't do that stuff anymore.
Chris, go get her a card.
Nightmare on Elm Street also.
Nightmare on Elm Street. I can't wait to see what you thought about that. What you think about that?
It's been a hot minute since I've seen.
Since you've seen Freddy, Johnny Depp's in that one.
Is he?
Yes.
That's great. I'll watch it coming up. Bride of Chucky's coming up, and then Alien coming up after that. Man,
lots of classics.
It'll be a good month. Good February.
Evil Dead. We just put that on Spotify. Go watch that. That's a bonus episode. When Evil Lurks is out on YouTube, and so is Hell House LLC. Those videos are doing really good on YouTube, so go watch those. We'll see you.
Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.